Welcome back to Even Tacos Fall Apart, the podcast that's all about nurturing our mental health and well-being. I'm MommaFoxFire, and today we're talking about raising kids with special needs. Before we jump into the interview, I need to mention that this conversation was recorded way back in 2020 during the height of the pandemic, so you're going to hear us talking about lockdowns and remote learning and all the chaos that came with that time. Some things have changed or improved since then, but the core truths about working with special needs kids haven't changed at all. Let me start by saying this. If you're raising a kid with special needs, you already know it's hard. You don't need me or anyone else to tell you that. What you might need to hear is that you're not alone and you're not failing even when it feels like you are. The term special needs covers a lot of ground. That could be a kid with ADHD, dyslexia, autism spectrum disorder, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, anxiety, behavioral challenges, and everything in between or any combination of those. According to the CDC, about 1 in 6 children in the U.S. has a developmental disability. That's millions of families navigating IEPs and 504 plans and trying to figure out why their kid can ace a verbal test but fails every written one. And the system is confusing as hell. The acronyms alone could fill a book. IEP stands for Individualized Education Program. RSP is Resource Specialist Program. SDC is Special Day Class. BIP is Behavioral Intervention Plan. And every school district may define those slightly differently or have its own way of doing things, which means what worked for your friend's kid in another state might not even exist where you live. And then there's the emotional toll. Watching your kids struggle with things that come easily to other children hurts in a way that's hard to explain. You oscillate between pushing them to do better and wondering if you're pushing too hard. You fight with school administrators who don't seem to get it. You lose sleep worrying about their future. And on top of all that, you're supposed to just keep functioning like a normal human being. Your kid is not broken. They're not less than. They just learn differently and move through the world differently. And with the right support and the right resources and a whole lot of patience, they can thrive. Today's guest is Josh Henry, who goes by Beer League Duster online. Josh has been working with special needs kids since he was 14. He spent 5 years as a special ed aide in a public school system. He coaches adaptive sports for kids in wheelchairs and kids across the entire spectrum of abilities. And the part that makes his perspective so valuable is that Josh was a special ed kid himself. He knows what it's like to sit in a classroom watching everyone else finish their tests while your brain is still trying to process question 3. He knows what it's like when teachers don't understand that you're not being lazy or defiant. You just need things explained a different way. And he knows what it felt like when one teacher finally said the right thing at the right time and it made everything click. In this interview, Josh talks about the challenges special needs kids face both in school and at home. He shares strategies that work. He discusses the resources parents can access and why it's so important to ask for help instead of trying to do everything yourself. He also gets real about the attitudes and behaviors that come with the territory and how to know when to push a kid and when to just let them have a bad day. We recorded this when the pandemic had just turned everyone's world upside down. Remote learning was brand new, schools were scrambling, parents were trying to work from home while supervising Zoom classes, or at least I was, and kids were already struggling academically or behaviorally were falling further behind. Josh predicted we'd see a huge increase in kids qualifying for special education services because of that time, and he was right. But even though we're talking about a specific moment in time, the lessons here are timeless. Kids still need patience. They still need adults who believe in them. They still need someone to say, "You're not behind, you just learn differently." And parents still need to hear that they're doing better than they think they are. So whether you're a parent of a special needs kid, a teacher, a coach, or just someone who wants to understand this world a little bit better, I think you're going to get a lot out of this conversation. Josh is funny, he's real, and he genuinely loves the kids he talks about. You can hear it in every word. All right, let's get into it. Here is my conversation with Josh Henry about working with special needs kids. Hello, how is everyone today? We are here tonight with Josh Henry, aka Beer League Duster. Super happy to have you here with us.
Guys.
His journey with special needs kids started when he was 14 and was helping at a church event where there was a little girl about 5 years old who had cerebral palsy and was unable to speak because of a stroke she had when she was a baby. And she just clung to him, and it really touched his heart and started his love for working with kids in general, and mainly kids that have special needs, whatever that may look like. Would you mind telling us a little bit about what you do now currently?
Yeah. So I don't currently work with special ed kids as far as getting paid to do it. I work for Amazon right now, but I do still have a love for them. So I coach for a place called Magic, and it is an adaptive sports league. Um, and so that's kids in wheelchairs, kids in every stretch of that spectrum. So I love working with them. It's amazing. I worked in the school system for about 5 years with special ed kids, and I got a real good sense of how to deal with them because of my background. I was a special ed kid myself, so I was really patient with them, and I kind of brought that to the table. And now I've kind of gone away from that for various reasons, but now I do help tutor some kids that are in an RSP class. Uh, and yeah, so that's kind of my experience. So I have parents calling me and emailing me and texting me all the time saying, "Hey, can you come tutor my kid?" Or, "Hey, my kid wants to learn how to play baseball or learn how to play hockey, but they're in a wheelchair, or they have one arm, whatever it is." And I'm and I love doing it. I've been doing it for about 6-7 years, so it's
That's really
amazing working
cool.
with them. I
Yeah. So a couple of things tonight. We do have a question queue open. So if you have a question for Josh, you're welcome to type in exclamation point Q, follow with your question. That'll be popped into the queue. Also, do you want to do your disclaimer too?
Oh, yes. So I have a disclaimer. Mama knows this because she works for the government, but just as in the government, in the education system, there are a lot of acronyms, and that's all they do. So if I say an acronym, and I will be saying a lot of them, just ask me, and I will do my best. I'm gonna try to be in the stream, just muting the sound. So I will try to see it, but if I don't, and Mama sees it and she asks me, I will be telling you what those acronyms mean, so you guys
Yeah.
aren't confused.
I'll probably ask a lot of them because I don't know all of them either. Hey, Elric, how are you doing today? Yeah, but it's one of those things like so many times in so many meetings, someone will just pop off a new acronym. I'm like, hold on, you got to tell me what that means.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, acronyms are everywhere, and if you don't know what they mean, it gets a little tough. So.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, especially right now, a lot of people are trying to do stuff at home. And you mentioned that, your state is still under pretty high lockdown. My state is not under lockdown as much, which sucks because everyone's just like, oh, everything's fine. And everyone else is like, y'all are idiots in Texas. And I'm like, yeah, they really are. We really are. Do you have any favorite at home hobbies that you're doing right now?
Uh, yeah, so I don't really get home a lot. I pretty much go to work, come home, take a shower, and go to sleep because I have to start really early in the morning.
Mhm.
But when I do get time to myself, I like to play video games because my fiance works nights at the same place that I do. So we don't really see each other a whole lot. So I get a lot of time, just to me. So I play some video games. I watch a lot of Twitch streamers, and as far as coaching, I also play sports still. I still play baseball, and I also play hockey still. So I try to work out and do a lot of my swinging the bat, skating a little bit as much as I can. And I am still coaching 3 times a week. So I'm at the ice rink about 3 times a week still right now. So
Yeah. So they're still allowing sports and stuff to happen?
sort of. So we have some guidelines and we have some protocols that we have to follow. So for baseball, we can only have about 8 kids in the dugout, or eight
Wow.
guys, right? Which is okay because right now, like I said, Fresno today was about 111 degrees. So a lot of us will go and
It's
stay in the
hot.
shade. So we're okay with that. And then for hockey, we technically, I guess he's not supposed to be open, but he is, and we have guidelines. So I mean, we have to wear masks while we're in the lobby, while we're in the dressing room. We try to do drills where the kids are as spread out as they possibly can be. We, drills that use the whole ice and stuff like that. No hitting, because we do want the places to stay open. So I'm trying to still get them working and conditioning, but also trying to be as safe as possible. So the stuff that we love doesn't shut down.
Right. You
And
got to
we keep kids
support.
safe.
You got to support the local businesses that you rely on for those kinds of things. Like it's really important. It's hard, and it's hard right now because there's just so many things that are shut down that you just can't do. My kid was talking about, and granted, it is summer in Texas and it is not soccer season, but he was like, I really want to play soccer again. I'm like, baby, we just got to wait and see what's going to happen in fall and see if they're going to allow it, because soccer is one of those that's not necessarily super always, but at 6 years old, they are pretty close to each other almost always.
They're ball chasing. So
Yes. Yes, very much. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, right now there would be no way. It's just too hot. Just too hot for them to be playing soccer in particular. But I know there are a lot of people playing basketball, here. And it's like they post pictures of their kids and all the kids are right together. And I'm like,
it's weird.
nice.
It's kind of defeats the purpose,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, a little bit. So you work with special needs kids, coaching adaptive sports, and you coach able-bodied students as well. What made you become interested in coaching?
Uh, so, like I said, I played sports at a pretty high level, and when I wasn't able to play anymore, I still loved the sport. And there were times where I would go out just for, like, say, hockey, for instance, for a stick time. And for those of you that don't know what a stick time is, basically you get your gloves and a stick and you shoot pucks around. That's basically all. It's just free ice time to shoot around.
That sounds
And there was
like exactly what it is.
Yeah,
It's
exactly
very
right. So
descriptive.
exactly right. And so there were some kids out there that were working, and so I liked working with them a little bit. And then a parent had came up to me when I was just out of college and starting in the elementary school system, and they found out that I played sports. They said, "Hey, you want to come coach?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll help you out. Why not? Because I know the sport. Why not? I'll help you out." And so in helping them out, I started to fall in love with teaching the kids and just seeing that light bulb go off, saying, "I got it." So I just fell in love with it. And I didn't even know that adaptive sports was a thing. I didn't know that there was even resources for these kids, right?
Mhm.
Like deaf baseball, where the ball has a little beep, like a beeper in it, which I was like, that is so cool, and stuff like that. So I was like, and so it kind of took my love for special needs kids and my love for sports, and kind of it allowed me to combine them, right? So
Yeah.
I was really really cool whenever I found out that was a thing, and so now I'm able to coach both, and I couldn't be happier doing what I love.
That's really cool. Yeah. I coached one season of my daughter's soccer team and it was great. I really liked having the kids kind of realize that they could play this sport and be better than other teams. It was really cool. It was an all girls, the first year that we did an all girls team. And I just didn't have the right level of support from my family at the time to continue because it takes up
Yeah,
so much time. It takes up so much time. All the planning and all the games and like everything before, and it's just it takes up a lot. So
yeah,
I commend you for doing that.
definitely. I commend my fiance for being okay with it. There's not a it's like I said, it's tough on
Yeah.
a family, and it's tough on a new family.
Hmm.
And um she's loved every minute of it, right? She's loved it. For the simple fact that I do, and she goes, look, yes, it sucks, during football season that I don't get to see you from June to November, really,
Right.
depending on how far you guys make it. But I know you love it. And yeah, you don't make a whole lot of money doing it, but it's something you love to do, and I can see it in your face. And she goes, that's something that I want to see more of, is just that happiness in your face. And if me supporting you in that is what it takes, then that's exactly what I'll what
That's
I'll what
awesome.
I'll do. So
That's awesome. So this is a little bit off topic, but do you have a serial killer or true crime story that fascinates you?
So I am very into true crime and just crime shows in general. I'm watching Blue Bloods right now. Don't I'm on I'm on like episode 6 of a season 1. Yes, I know I'm way behind because I think they're on like the 20th season
Right.
or whatever now. Um,
It just means you
but
have a
just
lot to look forward to. That's all.
absolutely,
You know.
and they're really good. Tom Selleck and Donnie Wahlberg are amazing in that show. I love SWAT, the show SWAT. I just finished that. It's a great show. I love the show The Rookie, and so I love those kinds of shows. But as far as true crime and serial killer, probably would have to say Charles Manson, and here's why.
That's debatable whether he's actually a serial killer, but please go on.
Right, and the reason why I mean, true crime too, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So, and the reason why is because I do have some friends, and we have some family friends who were at that prison before he died.
Wow.
And obviously they were at Corcoran. So it's only about Corcoran's only about 30 minutes from where I live.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that far. So obviously, you're just coming into to be a guard, the corrections. You can't go to him. You had to be, I think it was at least 10 years. And so talking to
Really?
hearing some of those stories, yeah, because he was so manipulative. There were stories that he would still get mail from women to this day saying, when you get out, I'll marry you, I'll have your kids, and blah blah. And I was like, that is insane.
Yeah.
I'm like, did you not read what he did? Did you just not care? I don't know. But just some of the stories that I had heard about how manipulative he could be, and just they would let him out of his cell once a day to go do whatever for like 20 minutes or something, and just do whatever he wanted to do. They didn't care. He took all his clothes off. They didn't care. They're just like, do it because he's never getting out of here ever.
Mm-hmm.
We have him in maximum security. This guy is never getting out, and if he tries, we're going to shoot him anyway. So I was like, that is insane. So yeah, and I kind of read about it. I was like, this guy was nuts.
Yeah.
This guy was crazy. So
Yeah, Manson is I mean, you take someone who is super charismatic and then super manipulative, which, all right, so if you think about it, if you're really charismatic, manipulative too, because you can. Like, I get that. I totally get that. But over the top. And I do
yeah,
think that he should be classified as a serial killer, but that is a big debate.
absolutely. Well, and it just goes to show, right? What happened in his life, right? Because as a kid, he probably didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to do this whenever I'm older, right? This sounds good to me, right? So what happened, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like, how crazy were the parents? How crazy was the rest of his family, or what happened, right? For him to say, this is okay. This is this is what we should be doing.
Yeah.
It's a little.
Yeah, it is. Hey, Bite Mark, how are you doing? Oh, what's for dinner? What'd you have for dinner? We had leftovers.
What did I have for dinner? I had pizza for dinner. That's what I had. Yeah.
We had, all right,
I had to
so
think about that.
my daughter had lasagna. My son had pizza. My other son had a peanut butter and jelly and some cheese, I think. I think that's what he wanted. And a peach or a plum, one of the two.
Peanut butter, jelly, and cheese, the two
Yes.
foods that'll kill me quickest.
Oh, really? Are you allergic?
I'm allergic to both extremely. Peanut butter, yes. Cheese, just my stomach just hates me. But peanut butter, we actually don't know. So we know that I'm allergic to peas, and peas are actually in the peanut family, which I didn't know.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, they are. So we don't know if I'm actually allergic to peanuts. Do you guys have Chick-fil-A's over there in Texas?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I guess they fry all their chicken in peanut oil.
Yep.
And that doesn't bother me. So I need to actually go and check and say, hey, am I actually allergic to peanuts? But I don't want to test it at work or whatever and not have an EpiPen on me, because that's just not going to be good. So
Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't be great.
no, not at all.
Oh, Bite Mark had cheesy hamburger macaroni. Nice.
Mm.
That's the one that you make in the Instant Pot? Is that the one? She makes something in the Instant Pot that's like that. And it always looks really good. whenever she.
Instant pots are the lifesaver. They really are. Pots are the best.
I
My Instant-
never got into using the Instant Pot. Like, I have a slow cooker and I really like my slow cooker,
Mhm.
but I never like the Instant Pot. It's just still, I would rather dump something into the crock pot in the morning and forget about it and then have it for dinner than still have to do something after work to cook.
Well, so the Instant Pot really helps us out because I work mornings, right? And I get
Mhm.
off at about 3:30, and she goes to work. She has to be at work by 6. So we have about an hour and a half, 2 hours to eat. So that,
Right.
and and I don't really want to wake up at 4 in the morning because I have to be at work by 6. And I don't want to wake up at 4 in the morning to throw something in there. So a lot of times the Instant Pot has saved our lives because we're like, she'll wake up in a panic. We didn't make anything for dinner, and I'm like, "Oh, just throw something in the Instant Pot. I'll go out on my lunch, get some chicken or something, throw it in
Mhm.
there, and we'll be good. Get some
Yeah.
shredded chicken, we'll be all right."
Yeah. Fights that I like that I can still be like, "Oh crap, I didn't make dinner plans," and then still have beans half an hour later. That's
Yeah,
true. That's
exactly.
true. That's very
For sure. For sure. For sure.
So, as a special needs student yourself growing up, what were
Mhm.
some of the biggest challenges you faced compared to your peers?
So, um, I've been 6'1" since I was about 13 or 14 years old. And so I started playing sports really, really early. And so being a special ed kid, it wasn't really hard on me because a lot of my coaches were my teachers. So they wanted to see me do really well. So they would
Right.
help me out. They would always call me into class a little after or whatever. But in elementary school, I wasn't that way. I was a bowling ball. I was super, super short and just pudgy. And so I would get picked on a lot because my test grades were so low for the longest time. And then one teacher finally said, "Hey," to my parents. They had a parent teacher conference, and it's actually genetic. My dad has a learning disability as well as I do. And my learning disability is dyslexia, and I have ADHD.
Hmm.
Really, really, really bad. So he he was like, "Yeah, I have dyslexia." And they never really diagnosed me because, back in the 70s and 80s, that wasn't really a thing. They were just like,
Right.
he's just different. But they kept passing him along,
Hmm.
which isn't good either. And so they said, maybe we should get him tested. Maybe we should see if there's something there. We can get him some help, right? Um, and so they did, and I got diagnosed with it, and so I finally was able to get some help. Um, and a lot of my problem was my brain would move faster than what I can do, right? So, and a lot of it was, I would see my friends around me getting up, finishing their their math test or whatever. So I'd be like, crap, I don't want to be the last one and look dumb. So I would just scribble something down. I didn't care what the answer was.
Circle all the
2 plus 2,
C's.
absolutely right. Two plus two it equals 20. I don't even care. So and then just turn it in. Well, what they ended up doing was it ended up sending me to another classroom, the library, whatever. And it took me a while to get used to that. I even did it in a college, and I was like, whatever, because I don't want to take my test in the class. Anyways, but in elementary school, it took me a while because I was like, dang, I'm so much different, right? And then it finally took one of my teachers to come up to me and say, hey, doesn't mean you're different, okay? It just means you learn at a different pace than everybody else,
Absolutely.
right? And it really takes teachers to kind of help help you and help the people around you, right? And then once I started getting A's and B's on all my tests and beating all my friends, they were like, "Oh, he's not dumb. He knows what he's doing. His brain just wasn't functioning the right way." And when I got the resources, it was good. So those were some challenges, and then there were some kids that never got the help that they needed because there's just something that they're just not getting. And one of the biggest advantages that I had was I had a good support system at home. My parents actually cared.
Makes a big
And
difference.
unfortunately, absolutely. And unfortunately, a lot of kids, a lot of special ed kids, and even regular ed students don't get that support system. And it's unfortunate, when just in the district that I was in, about 60% of those kids are in a single parent home, and that single parent can try their best, but at some point, you start to realize that these parents aren't as aren't very educated either. So kind of goes hand in hand there.
Well, and even if they are educated, like my kids right now are in a single parent home too, and even if they are educated, you got to work. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to work a full-time job, come home, make dinner, help your kids with whatever they need help with. And then especially right now, oh my God. My
Tough.
God. So I was telling you before we started this that I'm getting emails basically daily from their school saying we've changed how we're doing stuff and it's gonna be great. And I'm like, dear God, I hope so, because the spring was a freaking mess. So I'm hoping that that'll be helpful because it is really hard. But
It is tough.
honestly, though, even if my ex was still here, he would be working too, and it would still all fall to me. So,
It's super tough.
no.
Yeah. I mean, and in the spring when this all kind of stopped, right? Because it was almost instantaneous, right? They didn't say, okay, hey,
Mhm.
we have a week, or they didn't give them a month to say, hey, this is what we're thinking about. Let's try to figure out how we do this. They said, okay, today you're not coming back to school. You're going to start distance learning. Every kid was like, what is that?
Yep.
And so yeah, so I know like our district and the area that I'm in, they're starting to do a lot more stuff. They're like, all right, now this is how it worked, and it worked terribly.
It was
So
awful.
let's try to figure out, right. And again, it wasn't anybody's fault. It just kind of
No.
happened so fast that they were just like, we got to try to get these kids, something still. So yeah, I know, and it was tough for them, but I
Mhm.
think they're gonna be okay with it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, ours was an extension of spring break, right? That we went on spring break, so they had this week off already, and then they were just like, "Don't come back." And then they never went back, and so I think that the main problem was that they left it up to every teacher how to do it. And
Yeah,
every teacher had a different system, and with my son, who was in kindergarten last year, that wasn't as big of a deal. He had 3 teachers, where my daughter had, like, 7, and every teacher did things differently, and some of them were on Google Classrooms, and some of them were like, "Okay, I'm gonna give you stuff in Google Classrooms, but you have to turn it in via email, and, like, even if you mark it complete here, it's not gonna be counted complete unless you email it." And then some of them were like, "Okay, well, you have to be in attendance at this Zoom meeting." Well, that Zoom meeting was the same time as my son's Zoom meeting, and we only had 1 computer, and it's like,
yeah. A lot of the issues that we ran into were, so whenever it started, right? It was March 13th. I'll never forget the day. They said, okay, today's your last day of school, right? And they didn't say that on March 3rd. They didn't even say, hey, this week's going to be the last week. They said it on like a Sunday,
mhm,
saying schools are done, we're closed, right? Everything is done. And some of the seniors were crying because they're like, I didn't get to say bye to my friends, and it kind of stings, right? So my
mhm,
brother, who's going to be going into college, he has a lot of friends going out of a state and everything like that. But um, the grades that they were getting in the assignments, they were being graded, right? But they couldn't be counted against you, right? So
yep,
once kids started figuring out that, wait, so the grade that I left with is the grade that I can get, right? If I'm okay with this B in this class, I don't have to do any more work, right? I mean, and there were some kids who had to do some work because they were failing a class, and they had to do
mhm,
so much work to get to at least a C. But like my brother, right? He was straight A's, so he was like, I don't think he touched any of his classwork since March, and so now he was like, oh, I probably, and so he started doing some work during summer just because he's going into a college, and he'd been done for 6 months. But yeah, it was tough on a lot of kids, and they were just like, I don't really care anymore. I'm done. It's like,
yeah.
all right, can't do anything
Yeah, my
different. So
oldest was one of those seniors and graduated, and he was just like, "I guess that's it." I mean,
yeah,
there
he
was
was very
no, like, big celebration. I mean, they had a graduation car parade. I mean, it's really hard. It's really hard.
it's super tough for sure.
But Mark said, "I spent most of my school failing. I'm not dumb. I was bored." Yes. Yes, that
Yes,
also is a thing.
that's another thing. Yeah, for
Yep.
sure, absolutely.
And then she said my kid still has her girlfriend's hoodie that she was just borrowing for spring break. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they're
We
never gonna.
actually have a couple of articles of clothing from the last sleepover that was here, and they were like, "Well, we'll bring it back to you after spring break." And
never happened.
Yeah.
Never happened. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So do you feel like those challenges that you faced in school are the same for students today? Do you think that they've changed a little bit? Has remote learning changed any of those for the better or worse?
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna answer the first part of that for that
Hmm.
question first. Where we at? So those challenges today, they're obviously still around, but I think even from whenever I was in school, they've learned so much more about what autism is and what Down
Yeah.
syndrome is and what the spectrum is, right? And what the umbrella actually is, because technically ADHD is on the spectrum, because
Hmm.
the autism spectrum is such a big umbrella
It is.
for stuff, right? It's huge. And so they're learning a whole lot more about it, a whole lot more about how to deal with it, the different types, the different variations of it. So yeah, it's changed quite a bit. The challenges are always still there though, right? Because just like with regular ed students, every student learns
Hmm.
differently, right? So every student, you can have a visual learner, you need a tactile learner, right? You have a kid like my brother, right, who can just see something, say, "All right, I'm good," right? He's like a Sheldon Cooper in that way, where he has that photographic memory,
Yeah.
and it's kind of and he acts like him too, just a little bit. But he's a great kid. But that so every kid learns so differently. So yeah, the challenges are always still there.
Hmm.
I just think we've learned about them a little bit more. And so we have resources, right? I mean, there's so much stuff that we can give for kids that have the ADHD like I did, where um, you can have fidgets. You have, like, when I was a kid, they would sit me in a beanbag chair, say, "Hey, do your work in a beanbag chair," and I didn't think it would work. I said, "That's so dumb. It's not gonna work," and it worked.
What was it
And
about
then
that worked for you?
I think it just calmed me. I don't know it, because the beanbag chair that I had, well, most beanbag chairs, right? So you sit in them and you just kind of sink into them, right?
Yeah.
And I had a lap desk and stuff, so I just kind of sat there and just, right. And so that was part of my IEP, that
Hmm.
I had to have that in my classroom, right? Not that the beanbag chair, but I had something else where it was a lap band almost, and it was weighted with what she weighted rice. I think is what she weighted it with.
Hmm.
She just said, "Put it on your lap whenever you take in a test," and it calmed me down, and it
Just the
made me
weight
sit
of it.
still and focus.
Mhm.
So we have a lot of resources like that. And there were some kids in one of the classes that I was in, he couldn't sit still, and one of the teachers, she goes, "I got something for you guys." She brought one of those yoga balls, and she said, "Have the kids sit in the yoga ball and do his work," and it was amazing, right? And so there's also these stools that kind of wobble and stuff like that. So yes, the challenges are there, but I think we're learning how to deal with them better with the resources that we do have. And I think we are starting to see an increase now as far as remote learning goes. I do think we're going to start seeing an increase in kids that are getting these IEPs, getting these initials. Um, the reason why is because, again, every kid learns differently, right? And so if you had a kid that was already a grade level behind, so if you're going to get put into an RSP class, or even get put on an IEP here in
An
California,
IEP is individualized education program, right?
plan, yeah, yeah,
Plan. Okay. Yeah.
which is a legal document.
I
Um,
remember some stuff from when my oldest was in school.
um, so yeah, and in California, I don't know exactly how it is in Texas, but I think it's pretty similar. You have to have a discrepancy of about two grade levels to even be considered to get tested. And teachers have their own tests, right? Their own benchmarks and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you have a kid that was already a grade level behind, and they were starting to catch up a little bit, but they're still behind, we're going to see a whole lot with the remote learning of kids who are just going to be 2.5 grade levels behind. And then whenever they go back, they'll obviously be able to jump back up. RSP is a whole lot easier to be able to get kids out of than SDC is.
What is an
Um,
RSP?
an RSP program. So RSP is a resource specialist. So it's kids that are in the general education classroom, and they just get pulled out. Most of them will get pulled
Hmm.
out for about 60 minutes a day, which is about 300 minutes a week. Kind of adds up to that, give or take, right? So, but most of these kids will get pulled out, and a lot of them need help with math or ELA. Not typically both. So, and then they go straight back into their other classrooms.
Hmm.
And then you have an SDC classroom, which is a special day class, which is kids who that is their classroom pretty much all day long. They're in there the whole time, and then they do some push in stuff because they do have a general ed teacher, but a lot of times they have to go in and with aides and do it and do.
Yeah. Yeah. My oldest had a behavioral intervention classroom that he could choose to go to sometimes.
Mhm.
So he wasn't falling behind as far as education goes. He was falling behind as far as behavior and emotions kind of go. So they do count that also. Like it's not just you suck at math, you know. It's like
Yeah, no,
how are you on a level with your peers? What's your maturity level kind of thing. So that was really helpful for him, but it was I was impressed. That wasn't something that they had when I was a kid. Not that I think I or really either of my sisters would have needed to use it, but it's just not something that they really had. So, oh, Bite
yeah,
said they got an exercise ball for their kid to sit on while doing
mhm,
homework when she was younger. It helped that she could wiggle. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, BIPs are a fairly new thing, and that's what the behavior intervention plan is it's BIP. It that kind of took over for the 504, and a BIP is basically for a kid to be able to go into a classroom and just kind of calm down a little bit more, and so somebody can say, hey, what's going on? Let's work on this because a lot of times a kid will get frustrated and they don't want to do any work. Right, a kid gets frustrated with whatever's going on at home, whatever it is, and if that's the case, that kid's not learning anything anyways. It's just not happening, so
Yeah. Yeah, Bite, definitely. She said, I definitely can think of some people that would have benefited from behavioral assistance from my school time. Yes, absolutely. There were people around me that needed that. And what wound up happening is they would just be sent to in-school suspension or they would be suspended out of school, which is it's not helpful. I mean, they would be put on like, no, they didn't call it probation. They called it something else. But essentially they were put on probation for their behavior. And it's like they needed someone to actually listen and to actually
right,
understand and to actually
exactly,
help
right.
them figure out their regulation skills. And that just wasn't there.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I mean, so there was a kid. He was in our classroom to begin with, but he came to school one day, didn't want to do anything. Teacher calls me and goes, "Hey, can you come get him? He's just like a zombie today. He doesn't want to work. He just will not listen." And I said, "Yeah, y'all come grab him." And so he came into the classroom. He was in there pretty much all day long. Didn't want to do anything. Didn't want to do anything. We finally got him to do a little bit of stuff. And I finally asked him, I said, "Hey, is everything all right with you? What's going on?" And he goes, "No, what happened?" He goes, "I didn't want to come to a school today." I said, "Why not?" He goes, "My dad never didn't come home last night." And I was like, "Oof." And there was some other stuff that happened, but that kid is just not gonna learn anything, right? And so,
Right.
and that was just the tip of the iceberg with his family and emotional stuff. You you get that with the fact that he was a little lower than most of his classmates. But back when I was in school, and even when my parents were in school, that kid would not have gotten help. They would have just said,
Right. No, absolutely not.
just write him off because he's not helping out our test scores. So who cares? Right.
Yeah. So, what was the best thing someone said or did for you as a kid to help you thrive in and or out of school? And do you do anything to bring that into your work with kids today?
Yeah. So, like I said, one of the best things that someone did for me was just give me a chance. And that's what I try to do. So, like I said, I approach special ed teaching, coaching, whatever it is, even with able-bodied students. I approach that the same way because every kid needs some patience, right? Because not every kid's gonna be perfect,
Yeah.
right? And unfortunately, you get these kids who are like, I got a 90%. And I'm like, awesome. They're like, no, I need a 95 or my mom's going to kill me. And I'm like, so, and
That was
those kids,
me.
you're right. And so, you have to be careful with those kids too, because it's like, you don't want to perpetuate that. It's like, no, don't try to get better yourself, but it's also like, that's still good. So it's just someone to be patient. And just like that teacher said, she goes, you're not behind them. You just learn differently than they do.
Mhm.
So, and that's the kind of mentality that I like I said, I have an advantage coming into a lot of these kids because I was in that system. I've done it. I've had to go through it, and I got out of it. So I know what a lot of these kids are wanting, and a lot of the teachers can sympathize. But if you've never gone through that system, it's tough to empathize. And empathy for these kids is something that they can. And kids are very good at sniffing out BS from anybody. It does not matter who you
Yeah.
are. They know when you're not real. So if you can empathize, or like, this guy knows what he's talking about, or this person knows what they're talking about. And so that's something I always try to take is, what's this kid going through, right? You know, if it's a kid that I can probably mess around with or push a little harder, and they're gonna react to it, you can do that. If it's a kid that you push them too hard and they're just gonna go into a shell, you have to know your kids
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, and even among my kids, like, they react differently. My daughter,
Right.
you can look at her wrong and she'll bust into tears, where my youngest, like, you can whack his little behind because he hasn't been paying attention, and he's just like, "What?" Does
Exactly.
not care. So you have to really find what works for him, and, I mean, it's taking away Minecraft. That's what works for him, but
That's most kids right now. It's Minecraft or
yeah.
Fortnite or whatever.
Yeah, but see,
Yeah.
with my daughter who doesn't like cross words to her, taking away things doesn't matter to her because she always has books to fall back on, and she loves reading. And so it's like you can take away her phone, you can take away her computer, and she's just like, "Okay."
Yeah. My
But if
so my
if you say something to her like, "I'm really disappointed," you have to be careful with how you say that. You can't say, "I'm disappointed in you." It's like, "I'm disappointed in your behavior today," or like you have to be really careful.
Yeah. So, and one of the things my parents ended up having. So it's the same with me and my brother, right? So we're 9.5 years apart in age. And my dad could come in my room when I was in trouble. And my dad is a guitar player, so his forearms are just massive. And I always knew when he was mad because there was a vein that would just pop out of his forearm. And I'm just like, I'd be like, I'm about to die, guys. I gotta go, But my brother, right? My dad could yell at him, and he's like, eh, whatever, right? Because they would ground him, right? And like me, I hated reading. I hated it, right? Because of AR, basically. AR, I hated accelerated reader.
I
It made me
loved
not want.
AR.
Did you? Yeah, I couldn't
Yes,
stand it. It made me
I
have to
absolutely
read.
loved it.
The concept is amazing. I hate when teachers use it as grades,
Yeah.
as your reading grade, because I'm like, okay, then I don't want to read because I'm like, I want to read for fun, right? I want to read the books that I want to read, not the books that some test said that I'm qualified to read, right? I want to read, I want to read my sports books. I want to read this, but no, I have to read such and such book, but because I
Mhm.
did test well, right? But so my brother would just read. So a lot of times my parents were like, "What do we do? We can't take away books. We can't take away education
Yeah.
from him." So they had to find another way to ground him, right? They had to find another way. And one of the things was physical labor. I
Mhm.
love it. I love
Yep.
working, and my brother hates it. He can't stand it. He'll do it, but he's like, I don't want to do this. And so my parents would say, Hey, no, you're gonna, you would if he got in trouble during the summer, they said, no, you're gonna go to work with that day, and you're gonna work with him. You're gonna work at the church. You're gonna work at the in the little field that we have, right? You're gonna break leaves or do whatever.
Mhm.
And then like me, he spanked me one time. I forgot what it was for. I probably deserved it because I was a bad little kid. But I never did the same thing twice. I did a lot of things once. Never did the
Yeah.
same thing twice. So
Fights that I remember getting in trouble for being late to band one day, and they asked me what possible excuse I could have. I got hit by a truck yesterday. I remember that. Made it to every class but that one on time because I had to go all the way across the campus for it. Yeah.
Yeah, my I didn't realize how crazy band was until my brother started, and his teacher has his doctorate from a Juilliard.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, his instructor was insane, and they were
Was
good.
this a public
school?
school?
Yeah, this is at a public school.
Dang.
Right? Yeah, I'm like keep him. And they were good. You know, his band won awards and they went to Carnegie Hall and this, that, and the other thing. But my brother was late one day, and I had never seen my brother so upset for being late. He's like, and I asked him, I'm like, why were you so upset about being late? Like, you were like literally 30 seconds late. And he goes, if we're not on our dot, the second, it hits 7 o'clock, we get an F for the day. And I'm like, oh, that's not bad. He goes, no, you don't understand. Like, and he doesn't let you forget it. And I was like, oof. And then I felt it one day. He was like, he got on me, and I was like, oh, this man's terrifying.
Yeah. People go on about how nerdy band kids are, and I was a band nerd. Like, I was just a nerd in general. I loved AR. I was in chess club. Just as nerdy as you can possibly be, that's who I am. So I would go in early to my middle school teacher, who was the AR book distributor. It wasn't through the library. It was through the reading teacher. And so I would go in early specifically so I could pick out my book first. No one else got first pick. And I was always in the lead. We had a grade wide, like, nice. Whose points are the highest.
Right.
It was always me and like two other people. And we would all go in early so we could get the right books and recommend books to each other. Like, it was such a...
There's nothing wrong with being nerdy.
No. I mean, the problem with being so, I don't want to say obsessed, but obsessed with your grades is that you're right. What you said about, like, I got a 90. It's like, that's not good enough. An A is not good enough. You have to get an A+, because there's this. And then once you get to high school, it's like, there's the competition for the top 10%, because then you can get into different colleges and stuff automatically. And so I was in the top 10%, but I was always like almost weekly checking to make sure I was still in the top 10%. Yeah. And it was nerve-wracking. And like, that doesn't translate well to adult life, because you're not graded in adult life. There's not like, no. Okay, you get a 92 for this month. Like, that's not something that happens. And you don't get rewarded like you did in school either as an adult for doing above and beyond. You just have to continue doing above and beyond forever.
That's what they expect, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Was a nerd. I know.
Was that your sister?
Still am, yeah.
Is that your sister? Yeah. And there's something that, I tried not to do as a teacher, and it's tough. It really is. Because there's a fine line between pushing kids to do better, right? Because it's like, if I have a kid who I'm like, yeah, you got a B, but I could push you to get an A, I'm gonna push you to try to get that A. But if that's all you can do, and you're constantly getting it, awesome. I'm happy, right? So there's a fine line where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna push you, but how far is pushing too far to where that kid just breaks and doesn't want to do anything anymore?
Yeah. So. And it's also hard when you have kids and they're completely different from each other. Like, me and my sisters were all different from each other. I was like, I got in trouble for making B's at home. My sister got rewarded for making B's. And I never understood that until I had my own kids who are so drastically different that it's like, oh, okay. Because we were thrilled to bits if our oldest was passing. And when our middle son started making, like, he got a B on something, we were like, what's wrong? What's the matter? What's happening? What's going on? And it's not that we're like, you have to make a certain grade. It's that we know their capabilities. So I think that that's kind of what you're saying is just, if you know what they're capable of, you have to find that fine line. And it's hard to do.
Yeah. And a lot of parents, unfortunately, are on one end of the spectrum or the other. There's not a whole lot of middle ground, right? There you get those parents who are like, it's okay, you got an F, it's okay, or they just don't even care, right? They don't even pull them out. They're like, yeah, whatever, who cares? And then there's those parents who are like, you got a 98, you missed one question. How dumb are you? You know, why'd you miss this question? It stresses a kid out, and you're like, simmer down a little, you know, meet in the middle here, you know.
There are a couple of really interesting studies. This is a little bit off topic, but about kind of socioeconomics and grades and parenting styles. Because it could be like, if you are in a lower income bracket and your kid is making a C, you're like, okay, you're doing good. And then they make a B, all of a sudden you're really happy. Where if you're in a higher income bracket, sometimes you have a little more time because maybe you're not working quite as much. You don't have to work 2-3 jobs to make ends meet, and you can pay a little more attention. And so then you're like, you made a B. Why didn't you make an A? Let's get you a tutor. Where that lower income family can't afford that, you know? So
No.
there is such a like, I don't know, I can't think of the right word, but it's just unfair that education is so beneficial and also so still driven by your status in life.
Right. And so, and on those same studies, right, you know, you get a school that's as in a lower income area, right, and then a school that's in a higher income area. You know, yes, the kids that are in the higher income area are probably gonna do a little bit better, probably go to the better colleges, because one, they have more opportunity, right? And they're gonna get, in the property taxes in the higher income area, you can pay a little bit more. So yeah, the teachers have a reason to want to go, right? Because they're getting paid a little bit more. They have more resources. And in a lower income area, unfortunately, if a teacher isn't getting the resources or getting the support that they feel that they deserve, and which every teacher does, they're gonna leave. They're gonna go somewhere where they can get that, right. So a lot of these kids are missing out on the good teachers if they have the resources, right? Now there is ways that you can combat that with a kid going to these schools. That's all political, and a lot of them don't want to do that. But and it's also gender as well. And there was a study that said, you know, females, same economic class, doesn't matter what race you are gonna do better than their male counter. And it also goes race too. But yeah, I mean, and it's just like, and so it's very interesting as to why these things happen and why these things are the way that they are.
Yeah. It's sad that a lot of it's politically driven. It's just,
Absolutely.
I wish that it could all be fair and equal.
Don't we all? Don't we all? That'd be great.
Bite said it's funny that the one thing we all agree on about our childhood is that it was unfair, but we all disagree on who had the better end of the deal. That's true.
Yeah.
That's
Right,
true.
exactly.
Well, if you ask my kids, they probably think that it's unfair because I have, you know, 2 13-year-olds, same grade, same everything, but they do get treated a little bit differently because they're both capable of different things and they have different strengths and different weaknesses. And it's like, I'm sure they think that it's unfair the way that they each get treated.
Absolutely.
But as a parent, it's, and I didn't understand it as a kid. I didn't get it.
No.
Didn't get it.
Yeah.
I get it now.
Yeah, a kid's brain isn't developed enough to understand that I'm treating this kid not differently, or differently, yes, but not better, right? Because it's like, I'm treating him a way that he's gonna respond, but I'm treating you in a way that you're gonna respond to it in the way that's good for both of you guys. But it's like, you're treating him better, you're treating her better.
Right.
They just
Yeah.
don't get it.
Moore said I'd enjoy going back to the very structured lifestyle of school. Is that what you're talking about, the structured lifestyle of school? Kat, really? You are blocking my entire screen right now. The whole screen. Thank you. There you go. I'm glad I only have one child. It's complicated to have more than one. It really is, in so many different ways. So what's your favorite part about working with kids with special needs?
The attitude. because there are days where they come in with the most bubbly attitude, right? And I'm gonna kind of name drop a streamer here, but Tobias 2022,
Yeah.
Corey, he has a kid who's on the spectrum, and every Friday night, me, him, Truman, Spuds, and a bunch of us play Fortnite Friday nights, and his kid will come in and just be doing his sounds and everything like that. And one night he goes, "Guys, I'm so sorry. I'll get him." And we're like, it was like, guys, never ever be sorry about your kid coming in and having fun and wanting to be with his dad. And I told him, I said, "Goodbye. I'm not gonna lie to you. Your kid making sounds and having a good time and laughing makes my day better. Like when I'm having a bad day, just a crappy day or a crappy week, and I can hear your son just having a great time just because he's alive and just doing what he loves to do. It's like life's really not that bad, And so you get a lot of those kids who come in and they're just like, there was a kid who had Down syndrome, was upset all the time, just didn't love, and he kind of got out of the family system, so he was a little more happy. But one day he came up to me, gave me the biggest hug I've ever had in my life, and I'm like, and I look and I'm like, what's going on? Are you okay? And he just said, he goes, "I love you, Mr. Renee." And I was like, okay, I'm good now. I can go home and I'll be okay. But on the flip side of that, right? My least favorite is also the attitudes, right? Because you get those attitudes where they're throwing themselves on the ground, and you're like, okay, kid, you're testing my patience here. What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Right? They're throwing a tantrum, and a lot of it is, with the girl, right? So she would throw tantrums, like if I would leave, and a lot of it was she just could not verbalize and express what she wanted, right? And so that's a lot of them. With an RSP kid, they can speak. They know what they want. They know how to express it. Now, if they're on a 504 or a behavior plan, a little different, because sometimes they know how to express it. They're just that upset at the world, and they don't care, and they'll do whatever. But if you're in an STC class, right, a lot of these kids don't know how to express themselves, so they don't know how to say, "I'm upset," right, or "Hey, you made me mad," right? They don't know how to express that because they know their emotion, they know they're having one, but a lot of them are like, "I don't know what this is. I'm just not happy," right? And I don't know why I'm not happy. I'm just not. Or they do know, and they can't communicate. My dog died. My grandma died. Or someone was mean to me, right? A lot of times they'll just go, "I don't like him," just pointing at someone, and you're like, what are you trying to say, right? And those instances, I'm like, that kind of, I'm like,
You got to pull on that
okay.
patience.
You're like, okay, come on, God, you're testing me here. I don't want to, So it's the same with any any kid, right? I mean, even with general ed students, right? You get those times where they come up to you and they're like, you're an amazing person, blah blah blah. And then there's days where they, especially if they're 11, 12 years old. I mean, you have 13-year-olds, their attitudes, right? And are there ever days you're just like, I could just
strangle you? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, right, exactly. And it's the same thing as a coach. You're just like, did you just say what I think you just said to me? And so the attitudes on both ends is the best part of it and the worst part of it as well. So you have to figure out how to deal with both things.
And it's unpredictable enough in kids, generally speaking, too. Like,
right.
you just never know sometimes with kids.
It could be hourly, and you never know.
And they could go to bed saying, "Oh my gosh, you're the best mom ever." And they could wake up the next morning with absolutely zero things having happened between then and the next morning and just hate your guts.
And just upset at you. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. For sure.
Well, my grandma was a early childhood special ed teacher, and I remember like sometimes she would, so I could walk from my middle school, and remember that I was a band nerd. So after school we had band practice and stuff, and I could walk from the middle school to her elementary school. And so sometimes, like if my parents were out of town or whatever, or they had to work late or something, I would walk over there so she could give me a ride home. And she would always be there like super late and just working really hard to make sure that she had all this stuff. And every time I would ask her, what was your day like? She would explain something that was really nice that happened. Someone in her classroom made progress and she was always really happy about it. And she would never talk about the bad stuff. But one time she was like, you know what? Today was just not a great day. And I had a lot of my students who were just having a really hard time. And it was just like an infectious kind of attitude had spread through her classroom that day. And she was like, but it's okay. Tomorrow will be better. And I have just always admired the ability of teachers in general to take on that attitude in particular. Because I can't do that. Like,
No,
I don't have that
really
patience.
Tough. No. And you start to realize that they're a teacher, that's something that they don't teach in any credential class. They don't teach it. It's something that, and yes, teachers have patience, but everybody has patience to a certain extent, right? But I am convinced that sped teachers and anybody working with these kids have a patience that is just on another level.
It is.
There are some days like I have that patience. There are some days I just don't. I'm just like, you are getting on my last nerve today, and you're just testing it.
Yeah.
Because again, they know when they're testing it, and sometimes they're okay with it. They're like, let's just see how far this guy will go, right? And some days they're just not trying to. They're just pissed off at the world. So it is super duper tough.
Yeah, it can be.
Absolutely.
He just wants attention. I know.
He is loving life right now, isn't he?
I know. He was asleep right here that whole time, and then he jumped down. I guess he heard something, and then he came back, and now he just wants attention. No, you can't get on my keyboard. So is there one thing that's most important that you feel educators should keep in mind when working with special needs children and students?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, you get the one spectrum of parents who are, they just don't care, and you get the ones who care too much, right? So, and there has to be a happy middle. And it's the same with teachers, right? So a lot of teachers will get these students who come into their classroom, right? And you get those teachers who are like, oh, it's okay, you didn't do anything. I'll give you an A anyways. That's not helping him, right? That's not helping the student. And then you get some who are like, no, he didn't do any of it, so I'm not going to give him any grade. It's like, so there has to be some middle ground, right? And so that's what I would tell them, is say, look, know your kids, right? Get to know them like it's any other kid. And it's super tough. I get it, especially here. Like, I don't know how it is in Texas, the classroom sizes. But they just were able to get their classroom sizes down to where they're at like 23 per teacher right now. They're
in a regular classroom, they're at 23.
They were, yeah. Well, they finally were able to get it down to where, like, look, you have to hire more because
I think ours is like 30. It's
yeah,
awful. It's so bad.
Last year, most teachers were at 38.
Hey, can you not?
So they really, stay right there. They really dumbed it down, and which is awesome for the teacher because
it's better for the students too.
Absolutely right, because with less kids, a teacher's not like a teacher can deal with behaviors a little bit better. Teacher can deal with small groups a little bit better. Right. They can oversee a little bit, but with 38 kids, it is tough. And classrooms are not meant to be that big. They're just not. And teachers are like, you're just spending a lot of your time lecturing, and you're not able to get to every student, right? And with less students, you're able to get to them a little bit more. But yeah, like I said, I would tell any teacher, look, know your kids, know who you're dealing with, know who you have, and if it's a kid who can be pushed a little bit, push them, push them to a point, right? And if it's a kid who can't be pushed, don't push them, right? So like, there's a kid who I'm tutoring right I know, and it's tough because mom is a teacher, 3rd grade, I think. And she has one kid, straight A's, right? Everything, right? She has one kid who struggles, and so she was like, I don't know how to deal with them. And I said, that's the blessing and the curse of being a mom because you're a teacher as well, right? So I said, you know what he can do, right? I said, it's easier said than done, but as a teacher, don't look at him as your son whenever you're working with him. Work with him as any other kid who would be in your classroom, right? Um, because if you treat him like a kid that would be in your classroom like this, then you know how to work with him. Then you
Right.
know how to deal with him, right? Like, and she goes, well, he's not like. I said, that's not what I mean. I said, deal with him like he's any other RSP kid in your classroom, because I said, what would you do if an RSP kid came into your classroom and you didn't know anything about him? She said, well, probably get to try to figure out what his strengths and weaknesses are, figure out what to do. I said, that's what you have to do. I said, because you're a good enough teacher to know that. I said, but you're being a mom to him, right? And so
Right.
you're trying to be him, or you're getting frustrated because he's not getting it, right? And I said, you have to be a teacher to him first, because that's what he's going to respond to, right? And then at some point he was just like, at some point I would kind of watch him, and he's like, no, you're mom, you don't know anything, right? And so that's where I kind of stepped in, and I would kind of show her, hey, this is the stuff that's going to work for him, and this is why. Chunking some stuff up, right? So one of the biggest things was his writing. His penmanship did get worked on, but getting coherent thoughts out on paper. So um and so a lot of one of the one of the biggest things that I have always told her was find the resources, right? There's so many resources, and one of the best things that any kid can do for writing an essay is use speech to text. It is the lifesaver.
Yeah.
Um, because then you can read it out, right? And say, I didn't like that, right? Or what I used to do, this is before speech to text came out. I would have my mom would say, this is what I want you to do, okay? Sit, and we had the topic. She goes, write on that topic for 5 minutes. I said, what do you mean? She goes, sit down and write. I said, okay, about what? She goes, write about that topic. What do you know about that topic? I said, I know a lot about it. Okay, well then write about it for 5 minutes. Okay. So she said, go. So I just wrote as much as I could, right? Write it all down. She goes, okay, time's up. Come over here. And she said, okay, read off to me everything you wrote, right?
Mm-hmm.
She had a word page up and everything. My mom types like 200 words a minute. It's kind of ridiculous. And so I would just read it, and she just typed it all out, right? She goes, okay, now this is a whole run-on sentence, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah. She goes, all right, now let's go back and look at let's go back and look at let's try to break these up into a paragraph, break these up into coherent sentences. And yeah, it took probably an extra hour than it probably should have, but that took me from F's to 100%, because it wasn't that the writing was bad. It was just the fact that I was like, I don't know what you want me to say. And so that's what I tell teachers and parents all the time is, when you have a kid like this, you have to realize it's gonna take longer than you
Right.
probably would like. But believe me, if you give them the time, the the product will be so much better than if you give them the 30 minutes you're giving the rest of the class, right? So in college, I had like a test that was an hour. I would have time and a half. So I would have 2 hours and 30 minutes to do it. And my test scores went from here to here before I stopped going to college. But that's beside the point. That's for other reasons. But yeah, my test scores were a whole lot better. And so that's probably the one thing I would say is be patient with them, treat them like it's any other kid in your class. You got to know your students, know their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Are there any attitudes or even mannerisms that you try to use or you try to avoid using when working with special ed students?
It just all depends on the kid, depends on the day. Because like I said, that that kid who hadn't seen his dad all night because something had happened. That kid's not learning anything, and this is normally
Right.
a kid that I can push, right? That I can say, hey, let me squeeze another paragraph out of you. Let me try to squeeze 2 more sentences out of you.
Yeah, you're not getting anything
Um,
extra that day.
it's not, right? So you got to know the day. You got to know so it's always going to be different, right? And every kid's gonna be different. So if a kid's just pissed, let him be pissed. Let him be upset at the world because you're not gonna get anything out of him anyways. And him losing 2 hours is a whole lot better than you getting frustrated because he's not working or you're not doing something right. Because at the end of the day, our job as educators is to get them to where they're able to be hired, right? So, great example. There was a mom whose kid. Do you guys do your kids do Fontes and Pinnell over there or not really?
No, I don't know. I mean,
Fontes
they
and Pinnell.
might.
Okay.
I don't know what that is, though.
So Fontes and Pinnell is a reading system based on it's an alphabet system. So like -A is like preschool level, like 4-year-olds, and it goes all the way up to I think it's oh my god, like Z. It might go up even all the way up to Z. And Z is like tough, it's like high school level, Shakespeare, stuff like that. Um, and so this kid was a third grader reading at about a kindergarten level. And so obviously, his mom was like, I want him to be at third grade level by the time the school year's over. And we both looked at me and the other teacher looked at her and go, okay. I said, we just want to tell you that that's like jumping, you know, 5 letters, and it takes a while
Right.
to jump that. It takes kids, from kindergarten to third grade, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of progression, right? Because there's usually in every grade, there's usually about 3 letters that go into that grade, right? So you have beginning, first grade, intermediate, and then ending, exiting
Right.
first grade,
Yeah.
right? So, and she's like, I want him to be at exiting third grade by the time he's ready to move on to fourth. And we're like, okay. Um, and there were days the kid worked hard, and there were days the kid didn't. And so I just had to kind of approach him day by day and just say, kind of read him. There's days he'll walk into the classroom, fists clenched, and I'm just like, yeah, we're putting the books away today. We're gonna play a game with you, right? And sometimes you have to do that, right? Sometimes you just have to pull out a board game. And
Mm-hmm.
there were plenty of days where we sent kids away and said, hey, go. You're good. We'll call you back later, something, right? Go.
Yeah.
We got to deal with him today. And we would just play a board game with him for 30 minutes to an hour. And you just see the attitude change. And there were days he would come in and he's just happy, bouncing, and we're like, okay, we can pull out some books. And you would get through like 4 or 5 of them. So it just depends on the day, depends on the kid. And you just have to read them.
Yeah. Did that kid make it to exiting third grade?
No, he didn't. But
I
kind
wouldn't
of a
expect so. That's a big jump.
no, that's a huge jump. We did get him to about intermediate second, which was huge.
That's great. Yeah.
And one of the things we did have to do, and one of the things that every parent can do if they have a kid like that, even if they have a regular ed student, help them at home, and we
Mm-hmm.
tell them. And it was tough because this mom was a EL, so I was like, well, it gets really tough when the parents barely speak the language too.
Right.
That the kid's trying to learn, right? And so the kid can barely speak it. The parents can barely speak it. They're absolutely zero help,
Right.
right? But try to help your kid as much as possible. That's what we tell every parent. It can't just be us here for 8 hours because we're only seeing him an hour a day, right? And he has other stuff he has to do, right? He has to do math, history, science, and if he struggles with math or whatever, and he has to work on that a little bit more, you guys have to be able to take an extra hour and say, let's work on this a little extra, right? So you can catch up to all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, a lot of times we just have to tell parents that it's going to take extra work on your part. It's going to take extra hard work on their part, but it has to be done. And that's the only way your kid is ever going to succeed. That's the only way your kid's ever going to do what they're supposed to be doing.
Right. Yeah.
So.
So these are really weird ass times right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice for kids with special needs, or even parents of kids with special needs, or even teachers or coaches like yourself who are out there right now in this world of COVID struggling with their own mental health?
Don't do it by yourself. I know it's tough for moms, because dads know that they're not super. Well, dads think they're Superman too, but moms, if you're a mother or a father or whatever, you're not Superman. You're not Superwoman. Don't do it yourself. Right? Exactly. Blasphemy, right? And don't get me wrong, you guys are. Without moms, none of us are here, and without moms, nothing would ever get done. So I love moms, and I love what you guys do. And moms are a little more apt to ask for help, right? Because they're like, I need some help. I just do, right? Dads, on the other hand, it gets a little tougher because they're like, we want to be the fix it guy, right? We want to do everything ourselves, and we're like, I can't fix him. I can't fix my kid, and it's tough for us. Ask for help. Find somebody. There's resources out there. Google is the best one. And after this, I will give you probably one of the best websites I have ever come across for any parent.
That'd be awesome.
That has a kid like this, and it's not just for special ed kids. It's for any parents. It's geared towards kids with disabilities, but this is good for any parent. So yeah, try to find an organization. Try to find at your local school. Try to find the resources that you guys have, especially with this remote learning going on. Try to find some resources for your kids. Try to find what they can do. Try to find what help that you guys can provide, so parents don't go crazy trying to balance work and trying to balance, is my kid on his Zoom call? Is he
playing Minecraft?
Right, exactly, right. And that's gonna be the toughest thing, is trying to figure that out. But yeah, to answer the question, yes, try to find some resources, try to find some help. Don't try to do it yourself. You put my Twitter in the tweet, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. My DMs are always open, and I can always help anybody out that has any questions. My phone is always open, except from the time of 10 to 6 in the morning. And if you text me or call me by then, I might just strangle you because I am asleep. But other than that, my phone is pretty much open 24/7.
Here's a link to the two beer leagues Twitter as well, directly into the chat. So in case anybody needs that. So what impact do you hope that you leave with your students once they leave your care, and with these kids that you coach once they leave you?
Oh man. So I'll go with coaching first. Since I coach a lot of young men, right? I coach anywhere from 16 to 21-year-olds at hockey, football, baseball, whatever it is. I'm not a perfect man at all, but I hope to give them some sort of life lesson they could take away from, right. And it's the same thing. I mean, you have so many players who are going through so much stuff, right? You have players who are seniors thinking about, what's my life after this, right? And so one of the impacts I hope I make is that they feel free enough to come to me 20 years after they're gone, right? And one of the greatest feelings as a coach is walking in Costco, walking in Save Mart, whatever you have, and you see a kid that you've coached come up to you and say, "Coach, I haven't seen you in so long." And it's like, and I feel bad because I've coached so many kids, and I'm like, I coached you? Who are you? But it's like, and that's a great feeling. It's like you made an impact on that kid. It's like they remember you as a coach, right?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And any kid that I teach or that have taught, I hope that whether they learn 100 things from me or they learn one, that they keep that with them. And one of the things that I hope to teach them is I don't hope to teach them math. I don't hope to teach them English or science or speech. I hope to teach them how to utilize the resources and the tools that they have been given so that they can succeed. Let's face it, not everybody's going to go to college. Not everybody's going to go to a 4-year university, right? But whatever you do, you need to learn how to utilize the tools that you have been given, right? You know, and I hate that as an education system we teach it's either 4-year or bust. It's like, no, there's trade schools, there's other paths, right?
Yeah.
But we have to teach them how to utilize the tools that they have been given to be able to succeed. So that's one thing that I hope for any kid that I teach, that they remember those tools that I have taught them, and that they can say, hey, I remember when Mr. Henry taught me this about 10 years ago. Let me see if this works, right? Let me use this speech to text, or let me use this Khan Academy for a math, right? Let me use this stuff because I don't get it, right?
Yeah.
And especially when you're an adult, you're not going to have someone sitting there saying, okay, hey, Johnny, do this. This is this, right? So there's a bunch of resources and as technology grows and as the world grows, it's going to get better. The resources are going to get easier to utilize. So I hope that they remember how to utilize those and be successful.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do without Google. I mean, a lot of my job is just dealing with spreadsheets and software and like all this other stuff, and everyone's like, yeah, no one knows how to do this. And I'm like, well, let me just Google it and see if I can figure it out. And it's amazing how many people can't just use Google. Like, just Google
it's amazing. It's amazing how many people can't use Excel.
Mm-hmm.
Me being one of them, I can't use Excel. I don't get it. My mom, on the other hand, is a genius at it. And so I'm like, Excel this for me, please. She's like, all right. But it's true, and a lot of these kids nowadays they have a lot of book smarts. They don't have any common sense knowledge of how to utilize anything.
Right.
And not even just cursive, because I guess that's starting to come back. I don't know. But like how to tell time on a digital.
Can't read my handwriting, whether it's cursive or print or whatever. My handwriting's awful.
You got the you got that construction supervisor print.
I definitely have, like, I could have been a doctor handwriting. Sure, this is what this says.
Absolutely, yeah. Whatever you ask. But yeah, there's so much stuff going on that kids need to learn this kind of stuff, right? Like, I think honestly, cooking and home ec and how to, and we need to have a class to teach kids, hey, turn on a light, put on deodorant, take a shower.
The basics, right?
Learn how to cook an egg. Because it's amazing me how many kids don't know how to cook an egg, don't know how to put toast in a toaster.
Yeah. Bite said, I love Excel. I make spreadsheets for everything, but I still Google formulas for it. I'm a certified Microsoft Office specialist and I still Google the stuff. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because Google has everything. It's kind of scary how much Google has.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a ton of memes that say every time you Google something, it's automatically that stuff pops up in like your Facebook feed and your YouTube feed, and it's like, it's true, but what are they seeing? What are they seeing that we do? On the internet.
Well, you don't even have to type it in. Sometimes your devices are literally listening to you, because I've had conversations with my parents where I've said, they asked me what I want for my birthday, and I'm lame and an adult. So I said, I need a new trash can. Seriously, at the same time, my mom and I both got ads for trash cans. I had not typed in trash can anywhere, only said, I hadn't even texted it to her. I told her on the phone, I need a new trash can. And the next day we're both getting trash can ads. Like, it's insane. It's insane.
Who knows what they're listening to? It's kind of crazy, for sure.
Yeah. How to spot a fake life hacks video. Yeah. This is why I Google lots of random things, keeps them from figuring me out. Well, there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you do instead?
For sure. Actor.
Yeah.
Be an actor. That was something I loved doing. I loved Zac Efron. I loved all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was fun for me. So yeah, if I could do one thing, I'd probably try to be an actor.
That's cool. I would never have the nerve to do that because I am terrified of public speaking. Believe it or not, I am absolutely terrified of it. But I do it. I do it. I have to do it for my job sometimes. So it's one of those things I have, like, if I had to name one superhero power that I have, it's to stay calm outwardly while freaking out on the inside and still getting shit done.
And sometimes you're a involuntary extrovert. Yes. Some people have to be.
Well, I am an extrovert. I mean, I really am. I am not an introvert, but I am an extrovert with people that I already know and like. So it's the random people that I don't know. Like if I can have a friend in the audience whenever I'm speaking, like I'll grab someone from work and be like, you're coming to this conference with me because I need you to sit in the front row so I can look at someone that I know every now and then and be like, it's okay, someone's here.
Yeah, right. Someone I know is not.
Yes. No, but I am a total one-on-one. I am an extrovert. Group settings, no. Unless I know a couple people in the group, forget about it. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Hey, Victoria, thanks for that lurk. I appreciate it. So if you could wave a magic wand, and I think I'm going to start calling this the Disney moment, and eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory surrounding mental illness, disabilities, or talking about mental health, what would it be?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
It's very good.
So I'm handing you this magic wand.
I'm like the fairy godfather.
Yes, right. There you go.
So one thing I would probably try to eliminate is the stigma that kids with a disability or that a mental illness is something that is uncontrollable. So a lot of times, like, you can control ADHD, you can control ADD, and those are mental illnesses, right? You can control anxiety and depression. But a lot of people are like, just deal with it yourself. Pick yourself up by your bootstraps and go for it. Yeah, have you ever tried to pick yourself up by your bootstraps? It sucks. You get blisters and it's awful. And so that's one stigma that even with special needs kids is that SDC kids get a little bit more leeway, right? Because they're in that class setting, and it's like people know it's like there's something with them. But a kid that's in an RSP class and in a resource class that only sees a teacher one time a day, it's like, why can't he just do it himself? Why can't she just do it herself, right? Why can't she just learn how to add, right? Why can't she just learn how to multiply, right? Why is this person so anxious, right? Why, right? Or the parents, right? It has to be the parents' fault. The parents made them anxious, right? So blame the parents. You never know, right? You never know what's going on. So if I had a magic wand, I would just try to eliminate people's minds when they hear about it and listen to more everybody's story one-on-one, right? So I'll take me for instance, right? I am not a big proponent of ADHD medication. I am not, but I'm also not against it either because I did both. Right? I learned, I was on it for a little bit until I could figure out how to deal with it, until I could figure out what I needed to do to focus myself. And sports was that outlet for me. So I am a big proponent of trying to find an outlet because medication does make you a zombie for a little bit. Your body's not used to it, and it's strong stuff. But I'm not going to say that it doesn't work because it absolutely works. It definitely does. And if that's what a kid needs, then that's what a kid needs.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what an adult needs.
Yeah.
That's what an adult needs, So if I could eliminate something, it would just be that think of everybody one-on-one, separate stories, right? Don't say everybody that, people are putting them in groups that, the depressed people, this is mostly why they're depressed, right? And I hate those studies that 99% of people are depressed. It's like, shut up. No, they're not. Yes, okay. you might have done that study with a group of, of this control group, but it's like they didn't tell you the whole story as to why they are the way that they are, right? They might be depressed because of this, but what led up to them being that way, right?
Right.
What led up to this person being anxious, right? What led up to this kid being so far behind in school? Like I said, with the remote learning, I think we're going to see a whole lot of kids that are that way. It's like, well, what led up to you being so far behind? A global pandemic.
2020.
That's what. Yeah, right. Yeah, just a year in general, right? So, yeah, if I could do that, just say, hey, listen to people one by one, listen to their stories.
Yeah.
And you don't have to necessarily agree with it, but say, hey, your story is not the same as this person's story, and this person's story is not the same as this person's story. And when they do that, I think people are going to be a little more open to saying, let me help you, right? Let me, or saying sympathizing, right? Because not everybody can empathize, right? Because not everyone's gone through depression, not everyone's gone through anxiety, right? And not everyone's gone through these mental illnesses, but I think people start to sympathize more and say, have you ever looked at trying to get some help? Have you ever looked at trying to go somewhere? And that's another thing I want to eliminate too. If I had two magic wands, right, is
I'll allow it.
the people that awesome, thank you, I appreciate it. People who have mental illness, right? Not trying to hide it, right? Because if you try to hide it, and yes, there's so many people who are like, oh yeah, you're so courageous for getting out and saying it and blah blah blah. They absolutely are, but there's still a big majority of that population of the 100% of people who have a mental illness. There's a very small number of people who have said, yes, I am depressed. Yes,
Yeah.
I am grieving. Yes, I whatever, right? And there's a huge population who's just saying, I'm fine, I'm good, I don't want to talk about it, right? And I think a lot of these mass shootings could have been avoided because of that. Now, obviously, there's just some crazy people out that don't want to be helped. But I think the majority of all this evilness that's going on in the world, right? That we kind of see, this person was struggling with this person was struggling with this, right? Because you
We
read
can
it
always point
in their
backwards,
diary.
right? Yeah,
Absolutely, right. You can read it in a diary and emails and text messages, whatever. And I think if we kind of, it's tough to say that we don't as a society push people to get the help that they so rightly need and deserve, because we do. But I think the one would be for people who have the mental illness to say, this is okay for me to say something, right? This is okay for me to say, I'm not okay, right? I need some help, and I can't do it myself, right? Again, it's that Superman Superwoman complex of, I can do it all myself. I don't need anybody's help. I'm fine. We always need somebody's help. Every time, every day, we always need somebody's help. We always need somebody to help us out. We always need somebody in our corner who actually cares.
Yep, absolutely.
Sure.
And that's really important. Like, it's hard enough to say I have depression, I have anxiety, I have whatever it is, and that you're seeing someone about it. Like, that's a hard thing to come out and say, and I really wish that it wasn't, because the more that I've been open, and especially at work. Back in 2013, when I had postpartum depression after the birth of my youngest, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody because it wasn't something that we talked about. But now it's like I can talk about it even at work. And the more I talk about it, the more I hear other people talking back to me and saying, like, I'm struggling with something similar. And, what do you do? Kind of thing. So it really opens up the conversation. And I'm super happy to see, even in just the last few years, that it has taken such a big jump in being acceptable to even admit to that. I think we've got a really long way to go, but definitely agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of times it'll just take that one person, right? That one friend to say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," and you're like, and a lot of times you're like, "Really, you're struggling with this too?" Like, dude, I've been struggling with this for 15 years, right? And it's like, why didn't you ever tell me this? But it's like, hey, let's try to get through it together, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you why I'm struggling with it, right? And why are you struggling with this? And let's try to work through it together. And some of the greatest friendships have come out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do still every now and then get the comments of there's no way you're depressed. I'm like, you want to talk to my therapist? I'll give you her number.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah. And it's just the same thing, right? I mean, a lot of those kids that are doing these mass shootings and just evilness, right? Um, a lot of them have seen therapists, right? I'm not gonna lie to you, it is amazing to me that therapists aren't more crazy than they are because of some of the people that they see, right? Like I was watching a show about the Menendez brothers and about the therapist that dealt with the Menendez brothers. I'm like, wait, you mean to tell me that you dealt with two brothers who killed their parents for no reason just because they felt like it?
Mhm.
And I'm like, why? But the therapists are awesome, right? Therapists do that for a living. They hear people's problems. Um, and there's especially the ones that are in the prisons. They deal with some of the crazies. They deal with some of the worst of the worst. Just
And
trying to
hopefully they
figure out
have
why they're
therapists
like
too,
that.
right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Because you'd almost need one, right? Be like, oh, dude, I gotta tell you what so and so told me in the prison today. Oh man, this is nuts. Right? You almost think you're an accessory to a crime whenever they tell you some of these things, right? But yeah, it takes a very strong person to admit it. And it takes an even stronger person to be willing to listen and be
Right.
willing to help. For sure.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
if anybody has any questions for Josh, the queue is open. And with that, we've kind of come to the end of the interview. Josh, I'll just open it up to you and say if there's anything that you want to bring up that we didn't cover, or any recommendations for sites or resources or anything, I'll just open the floor up to you.
okay, yeah. So one of the things right now, especially, I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit, with remote learning, right?
Mm.
Whatever your state is doing, you just have to kind of trust that they're trying to do their best as a district, right? So be patient with them, and especially right now, stay on your kids. Make sure they're on, right, because it's the teachers are in such a weird spot because it's like, how do I create a lesson plan for a computer? And it's one of those things where it's like a kid comes into your class, right, and it's that face to face, right, and a kid says, "I didn't do my essay." Why not? Grandpa was in the hospital, right? It's like, okay. And you're more inclined to give the student a little more time. But through a um through a computer, you're like, really? You can take the computer to the hospital and do your essay, right? Or whatever it is. So it's tough on teachers too, because they,
Mhm.
they they want to be there with their kids. So just be patient with them. And if your student and if you have a child that is a special ed child, I encourage you to work as hard as you can and see if this teacher is okay with it, to try to arrange text back and forth and say, hey, so and so's really struggling. And something that I've even done is I've kind of put it out there to a Facebook that I can help kids around my area, and I have no problems doing house visits
Mhm.
if parents are okay with it, right? And we can do it safely, right? With wear masks and do this and the other thing. We'll stay 6 feet apart. But a lot of these kids, they need that face to face, right? They need that visual that they're just not going to see, right? Because a teacher on a overhead, I don't even know if they have a overhead projectors anymore. I think those are outdated. But they're doing a math problem really really fast, and they're like, copy it, right? And then I'll explain to you how you did it. Well, the kid with special needs is their brain already doesn't work that fast.
Mhm.
So I honestly believe that if you can find somebody who can either get on a Zoom call one on one or come over to the house one-on-one and kind of work this problem out with them. And
Yeah.
you can't always expect to be the teacher because they're like, I just did this for 10 hours. I don't want to do this for another hour and a half. But if it's a family friend that is good with kids, right? Try to utilize them to do that. So yeah, like I said, Mama put my Twitter in the chat, so my line is always open. We can set up some video conferences with me if you have any questions, or you're just saying, hey, my kid needs some help. I'm absolutely willing to do so.
That's awesome.
And whenever we get done with this, there is one website that I came across a couple weeks ago. That is probably the best website I had ever came across. Here in Fresno, it's called EPU, Educational Parents Unlimited. And what they do is they help parents learn what an IEP is, learn what their rights are, learn all this kind of stuff, right? Learn what the resources are. And they have people going into these houses, right, and helping them, like doing these home visits. And now more than ever, I think these kinds of resources are more important than ever. So I will put it in the chat whenever we get done here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is called Parent Center Hub or something like that. And it is the same kind of organization in every state. And it tells you
Nice.
what region you're in. It tells you where they're at, where the closest one is to you. So you can get that help and get all those resources.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be really great
sure.
to have the link to, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again so much for joining us tonight. This was a great conversation.
And that was my conversation with Josh Henry. There were so many moments in that interview where Josh said something that just hit me right in the chest. Like when he talked about that little girl with cerebral palsy who just clung to him at 14 years old, and how that one moment changed the entire trajectory of his life. Or when he described a kid coming up to him in the classroom with clenched fists, and Josh just knowing that today was not a day for books. Today was a day for board games and for patience. That's the reality of working with special needs kids. That's the reality of working with any kids, or any humans really. Some days, people show up ready to work and learn and grow. Other days, they're barely holding it together, and the best thing you can do is just be present with them. I think about that a lot in my own life. How many times have I shown up to work, or to parenting, or to just existing, and I was running on empty? How many times did someone push me when what I really needed was for someone to see me and say, hey, it's okay to have a bad day? But I also think about what Josh said about knowing when to push, because sometimes we do need that push. Sometimes we're capable of more than we think we are, and we need someone who believes in us enough to say, I know you can do this. Let's try one more time. That balance between pushing and supporting, challenging and accepting, that's for more than just special ed classrooms. That's for all of us. Whether you're parenting a neurotypical kid, or managing a team at work, or trying to be a good friend to someone who's struggling, you have to know when to push and when to just sit with someone in their mess. The other thing that really stuck with me was Josh's point about not trying to be Superman or Superwoman. Ask for help. Use the resources. Don't try to do it all alone because you really can't. None of us can. And pretending we can just leads to burnout and resentment and everyone suffering more than they need to. I know it's hard to ask for help. I know it feels like admitting defeat or like you're not good enough. But asking for help is not weakness. It really is wisdom. It's recognizing that we're all human and we all have limits, and there's no shame in reaching out when you hit yours. If you're raising a kid with special needs, I want you to know that you're doing better than you think you are. The fact that you're listening to podcasts and trying to learn and looking for ways to support your kid better already makes you a good parent. Your kid is lucky to have you even on the days when it doesn't feel that way. And if you work with special needs kids in any capacity, whether as a teacher or a coach or a tutor or whatever, thank you. Thank you for showing up with patience. Thank you for seeing these kids as whole people who just need a different approach. Thank you for not giving up on them when it would be easier to write them off. Before I let you go, I want to remind you that this show exists because of listeners like you. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to leave a comment or a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Those things really help other people find the show, and they help me know what's resonating with you. You can also subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share this directly with someone who might need or want to hear it. You can find me on social media. I'm MommaFoxFire everywhere. And if you have questions or topics that you want me to cover, or even if you just want to say hi, join our FoxFam Discord. I post a heads up every week on who will be the next guest, and I provide an opportunity to ask questions ahead of time if you can't make it to the online live show on Mondays. Thank you so much for listening. Remember that it's okay to struggle. It's okay to have hard days. It's okay to need help. Even tacos fall apart, and that doesn't make them any less delicious. Take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next one.